Hi guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. Today I want to share with you my reading goals for 2020. So this is my first year ever doing like official reading goals other than my Goodreads goal, which I've done the past couple of years. But other than that, I've never actually set reading goals for myself that I wrote down that I was trying to hold myself accountable to. So this is the first year for that. I have 7 goals that I want to share with you today. So let's get started. The first goal I want to share with you is my Goodreads reading goal. This is something that I've set the past few years and had no issue with. This year, I read exponentially more than I have ever read in my entire life. Like double almost what I read, actually over double what I read last year. So far this year I've read over 160 books, which given the fact that I read a lot of graphic novels and I read a lot of middle grade and I listen to a lot of audiobooks, that is kind of the contributing factor to such a high number. However, for 2020, I'm not really planning on changing any of those things. So I am setting my reading goal for Goodreads to 100 books. And I think that that's doable considering the types of books and the method that I use to read them. This is not something that if I don't reach it, I'm going to be devastated about, but I'm just putting it out there that that's one that I would like to at least hit 100 books. And honestly, I would like to read less next year than I read this year, just for family's sake. I'd like to participate in other things outside of reading more with my husband and my family and go do more things outside of reading. And so I think that's why I would like to read less next year. The second goal that I have on my official list is to read 10 nonfiction books. I think I read 11 this year, and I'm happy with that, but I would like to read at least 10. I think nonfiction books are important. I think that they really give me that ability to learn something from it that I don't always get with fiction books. Sometimes I do, especially like historical fiction, but I think there's just something special about nonfiction books. They bring a different aspect to my reading, and I appreciate that. And so I would like to read at least 10 of those this year. My next goal is to read 5 classics. That's a low number, but that's a high number for me considering I don't read classics. So this is the year that I really, really want to try to give classics a shot. And in order to do that, my goal is to read, or at least attempt to read, 5. I have a couple on my 20 books I want to read in 2020 list, and I have one on my winter TBR already. So I'd like to at least get some of them under my belt, or at least try them. So I set that number low, and hopefully next year that number can be a little bit higher. We'll see. We'll see how I do with this. So my next 2 goals have to do with specific books that I would like to read. And the first is my Anne of Green Gables read along. So Tia from Tia and All the Books and I are hosting an Anne of Green Gables read along starting in January. So one of my goals that I'm going to be tracking on my goals list is finishing out this series. There are 8 books in this series, and so I would like to get those done this year and knock that off my list. My other goal that has to do with specific books is that I would like to finally reread Harry Potter. I've never reread Harry Potter. I was in the group of people that was fortunate enough to be there when they were being released. I started reading Harry Potter my junior year of high school, and I started with The Prisoner of Azkaban. And I remember very vividly reading that on my spring break, my junior year of high school. That was the most recent book that had been out. I mean, I read all 3 of them, but I started reading them after the first 3 had already been released. So I didn't start with book number 3. I started with book number 1. But I remember reading The Prisoner of Azkaban during spring break, my junior year of high school, and I have such fond memories of that. But after book 3, I was there when they were released. I never stood in line at midnight, but I read them as they were released. And I've never reread them since. I've watched the movies, but I've never actually reread the books. So I have the original covers, I have all 7 of them. I have the first 3 illustrated versions. And so I don't know if I'm going to do the illustrated versions or if I'm going to do the audiobooks, because I've heard fantastic things about the audiobooks and I kind of want to read them that way. I don't know though, because like I said, I do own the first 3 illustrated ones and I would like them to at least get read at some point. So I don't know, but throughout the year, I do want to be reading through the Harry Potter series finally again. And I may try to convince one of my daughters to read it with me. My oldest has 0 interest in Harry Potter, none at all whatsoever. And that's heartbreaking and sad, but that's reality. So I might be able to convince my second daughter, though, not my oldest, whatever, you know what I mean, to read them with me. We'll see. But yeah, so these 7, that's going to be my big reread project throughout the year because I don't really reread books. So that's kind of an undertaking for me. All right, and then my last 2 goals have to do with just kind of general things. There's not a specific number or a specific book, but just generally speaking. And the first one is that I would like to read more off of my shelves. So I have 178 books in my home that are mine, not my kids', that I have not read. And I would like to read some of them, if not many of them. So I would just kind of like to be picking more off my shelves instead of going to the library and, getting more books to put on my shelves. I mean, let's be honest, we need to get that under control as well. But I do want to be picking off my shelves and reading a lot of these books that I have so that I know whether or not I want to keep them. And, maybe I'll be able to open up some more space for some new books if I do get some of these ones read. I think that's a pretty standard goal for most people. And I know 178 isn't a very big number in the booktube world, but for me and my family and the number of books that my home can house and what I'm comfortable with, I think that is plenty. So I would like to read some of these books that I have on my own shelves. And then my last goal that I have for 2020 is to read more cover reads. That's the best way I could figure out how to explain it. But I would like to read more books that I just pick up because they sound good and not because I've heard about them from somebody else. So I'd like to be able to go into the library or go to the thrift store and just peruse the books and find something that speaks to me, not only look for books that I've heard about from somebody else. I think I've really lost touch with that aspect of reading since starting to watch BookTube like 3 or 4 years ago. I've pretty much only been picking up books that I hear other people talk about. And I want to start being the person that is telling other people about new books, whether they're backlist books or brand new books or whatever. I want to be the person that's telling you about books that other people aren't talking about. And I just want that experience of getting to read something that I think sounds exciting, not because I heard about it from somebody else, but because I think it sounds exciting. So that's my other kind of general goal. So those are my 7 goals that I have set for myself during the year of 2020. I would love to hear what some of your reading goals are. If you have set reading goals, let me know what some of them are down below. And if you're not someone who makes reading goals, why not? Is it just something that you don't see a need for, or is it something that you're against? I'd love to chat with you down below. And yeah, other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya!